are going to begin with the poem, The Trees. The Trees by Adrian Rich. The title of the poem, The Trees, itself speaks. Definitely, we are going to talk about environment. We are going to talk about saving the trees, conserving the trees. We are going to talk about afforestation, deforestation. Afforestation and deforestation meaning it is man versus nature, right? So it is clearly reflecting that there is conflict between man and nature. But before we proceed, let us talk about the poet first. That is Adrienne Rich. Adrienne Rich was an American poet. She was born and grew as a Jewish. She belonged to Jewish family. Now, Jewish, do you know who are the Jews?
Ma'am, they live in Germany.
Yes, in Germany, in different parts of west of the world, right? Jews are, you know, that what we people in India call low caste people. जैसे हम दलित बोलते हैं ना, right? Though we people have become educated, we do not believe Dalit and the normal human beings. हम नहीं difference समझते हैं. But Dalit, do you understand कि दलित किनको कहते हैं?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So that's how they have Jewish community. So she was a Jewish. She was born in Baltimore, a celebrated poet. She was a very renowned poet who had earned many laurels for his beautiful poetry. And one of the most prestigious poets awards also she had won. And she was just 22 when she won that award. She was an American feminist, a major voice in American feminism since the late 1960s. American feminist meaning, feminist is the one who raises her voice for the freedom and rights of the women, right? Such a person is called, such a woman is called feminist. Feminist is from feminine, that is feminine character, that is for women only. So a woman can be feminist. She has explored the ways in which patriarchal society oppresses women and the ways in which women have responded to that oppression. She has tried to find out the ways how patriarchal society, man-dominating society. Now you see that you must be thinking that why I am talking about it in the context of America, because this is a reality unknown. It is not so that there is patriarchal society in India. Is Indian society only man-dominating? No. In different parts of the world, you go to England, you go to America, you go to many other parts of Europe and America, you will find patriarchal society. There also the women are deprived of all the rights and freedoms which the men get. So they are also suffering atrocities at the hands of men. We have such a patriarchal society all over the world. So this woman, Adrienne Rich, she had always raised her voice. She had tried to explore the ways how this can be checked and how the woman should respond, should stand up against the oppression when a woman is oppressed by the men or the men in the society. Right? Now here you see that what it is, The Trees has been written by a feminist poet, right? And again, you must be thinking that trees is about environment, then what the feminist has to do with the trees? Actually, in the poem, the poet has used trees as symbolic for women. trees spread, they are limited, they are curtailed. At places they cannot move, they cannot spread their roots and leaves. Still they keep on trying to spread their leaves and roots. So what is this? This is just like the women. The women also, like the trees, they keep on making tireless efforts to get freedom, to get rights, to escape from the patriarchal society. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the idea that goes throughout the poem. We'll discuss first 2 stanzas today, and the remaining will conclude tomorrow. Okay? And in between, if you have any problem, you can definitely stop me. Here is an introduction of the poem. Introduction of the poem is giving a brief outline, and I hope that it would be easy for you to understand the whole idea of the poem. Yes, the poem, The Trees, expresses the conflict between man and nature. As I've already said, the nature is not happy with the activities of human beings. What do you think could be the activities of the human beings that would disappoint nature?
Ma'am, deforestation.
Right, deforestation. Deforestation, cutting down the trees and then not replacing them with other trees. But here we will also talk about a new trend. The people are making, the humans are making the forest treeless, but they are trying to decorate their houses with plants and trees. So where the nature has given the gift, we are stealing the environment of that beautiful gift of nature. And we want to decorate our own houses with that beautiful gift of nature. This is the irony. Man has always used nature for his own benefits and then harmed the nature. Yes, man has always been greedy. When you go to 11th, you will read a lesson, The Ailing Planet. The Ailing Planet, where the writer has said that the man is so greedy that man thinks that man has the sole right on this earth. That's why all the natural resources are being recklessly consumed, over-consumed by the man. Why the man does it? Because man is selfish. This is what has been said in that article. The man has ignored the importance of nature. Why man would steal nature of all its beautiful gifts? Why man would cut down the trees? Because man thinks of the present, right? But man does not take care of the importance, the significance of those very trees. Today, so many forests have been cleared. So many forests have been cleared and the land is being used for the housing development, industrial development. Definitely, the man would get monetary gains, but at the cost of nature. There would be an imbalance in the ecology after cutting down or clearing off the forests. This is what man ignores. That's why the natural forests have become empty. The forests have become empty, meaning Anmol?
And forests become cleared.
Yes, they have become clear. There are no trees growing there now. Whereas the man is trying to create forests at home. The actual forests are being cleared by man. And man is trying to create the forest at home. How? The plants are decorated inside the house in pots and pans, right? But in pots and pans, these trees These plants, they can grow only to a certain limit. But you cannot stop their growth. So when they want to grow, then what happens? Let's see. In this poem, the poet refers to the trees grown by the poet inside the house. So he is referring to those very trees which are being decorated inside. These trees are trying to move out of the forest to free themselves. They are trying to move out of the forest. Which forest? The forest created by man at home. These trees, these plants, they try to move out, they try to escape the interiors of the house to free themselves. Why? Because they want to go to their natural habitat. That is the actual forest. The actual forest. Right? A plant is brought now. How that forest is created at home? A plant is brought inside the house when it is a sapling. A small sapling is planted in the house. But as it grows, it gets suffocated because it does not get enough space to grow. It grows to a certain limit. It wants to grow further. But why it grows to certain limits? Because there is not much space for the plant to grow. We are growing a sapling, we are growing a plant in a 6 inches pot or 10 inches pot or 12 inches or 20 inches. But after that, what happens? It has to grow, it is growing, but it does not have the space to grow. As a result, what happens? If you have noticed sometime when a pot breaks, you must have noticed that how the roots of that plant are spread all around the soil of the plant. Isn't it? When a plant is growing in the land, its roots are not circular. They keep on spreading like we are stretching our arms. Why? Because they get space to grow, to spread. But here, when a plant is planted in a pot, it does not get the space. So that's how it becomes circular. As a result, what happens? The pot breaks sometimes. Have you noticed? Sometimes the pot breaks. Sometimes there is a crack in the wall. Have you noticed that?
Yes, ma'am.
Where the plants are growing? Because their roots do not get the space. So they start growing in the walls, causing the cracks in the walls. Then after some time, you find small twigs or small saplings coming out of the cracks of the wall. So this is nature. We cannot stop it. Man cannot curve. Man cannot stop it. But man does not understand what the man is doing. Man tries to hold nature. Man tries to control. As I said in class 11th chapter, The Alien Planet, the writer says, man thinks that man has the sole owner, the sole right of the earth. Right? But the writer says that man is not the sole owner. Earth or whatever is available on the earth has to be shared by all. All these trees, plants, oceans, rivers, mountains, deserts, seas, all these have to be shared. And who all are sharing? Whosoever is present on the earth. On the earth is not only humans present. Many other living beings are present. So that earth belongs to them also. This is what the man has to understand, right? When it does not get enough space to grow, then it tries to free itself from the interiors. How it tries to free itself, as I told to you, that it puts a lot of pressure, it makes a lot of effort, it struggles to escape. As a result, the pots are broken. The trees here are symbolic of women who always struggle to get freedom and express their true identity and purpose. Now you must be thinking that how can the poet equate the women with the trees? Yes, trees are symbolic of women. How? The women, they are always fighting. They are always making struggle. They are always making effort to get freedom. Why? Because they want to prove that they exist. They have an identity. Because they know and they want to tell the world that they also live with a purpose in life. A woman's existence is not meaningless. A woman's existence is not purposeless. A woman also has a purpose to live, a purpose to exist. But just because she is woman and the society is patriarchal, so in this patriarchal society, what happens? The woman's importance is ignored, just as the natural forests are ignored. And then the woman is deprived of her freedoms and rights. But she keeps on making struggle. You cannot stop her. She keeps on making efforts to escape the bindings and the bondages of the society. And she puts in all efforts to get her freedoms and rights just equal to men. Is that clear? The introduction of the poem.
Yes, ma'am.
Any problem here?
Sorry?
Any problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, now here is the first stanza. Right? Here is the first stanza. The trees inside are moving out into the forest. The forest that was empty all these days, where no bird could sit, no insect hide, no sun bury its feet in shadow. The forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. Now here you will see the pictures. It's a treeless forest, right? And here to my right side, you will see another picture. What is this?
Ma'am, pots.
Plants. Plants which we are keeping at home for decoration. So by keeping all these kinds of plants, we are trying to, just a minute. Yes, we are trying to create a forest at home, right? Yes. The poet observes, this is poet's observation, the trees inside are moving out into the forest. The poet says that the trees which you have kept in pots and pans to decorate in the house, they are moving out. They are moving out, they are spreading. They are spreading, they are trying to reach out into the forest. Now look at the position of the plants. You will find that the position of the plants is upward, not downward. Why is it upward? Because they are trying to move out. Their effort is to move out into the forest meaning into the natural forest. They are being decorated here. They have been kept in very expensive and beautiful pots and pans here. But these plants are not happy. Are they happy? They are not happy. Right? I tell you one thing very interesting here. You know that when we are keeping lot many plants together, at times what happens, this is what I have noticed. A particular plant, if I just keep it away from the other plants, after 2 or 3 days, I would find that this plant is not looking happy. And somehow I get this feeling that perhaps this plant is withering. And many a times you will not believe this, Anmol, I feel as if complaining to me why I have been isolated. Then after a few days, you know what I do? I just put him also in the same row where the other plants are. This is what twice or thrice I have noticed and I realized. And now I take care that one particular plant I am not going to keep completely separately from the other plants. They also love the company of each other. So why these forests, these trees, they are which have been kept inside, why they are trying to move out into the forest? Because that is their natural habitat. This is where they want to go, right? The forest that was empty all these days, the forest is empty. The forest has become treeless. When we say that the forest that was empty, meaning the forest has become treeless. Who has made the forest treeless? The man, the humans. The humans have made the forest treeless these days. As a result, no bird could sit. The birds cannot sit on the branches of the trees. When there are no trees, where will the bird sit? No insect hide. The insects, they cannot hide themselves. They are very clearly visible now because there are no trees where they could hide themselves. No sun buries its feet in shadow. Try to understand. Sun cannot bury its feet in shadow, meaning there is no shadow of the trees where the sunlight can be buried, can be covered, or the sun rays can disappear with the shadow of the trees. Why sun cannot disappear? And it would be bright shining sun that would be visible because there are no trees. There are no trees, so there is no shade. Right? But the poet seems to be optimistic. The poet says that the forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. The poet is hopeful that the forest, that all these nights that had been empty, that had been treeless, the next morning, meaning the day is not far, when the forest will be full of trees. Meaning the day is not far when the humans would realize the importance of trees. And they would stop destroying the trees. As a result, the forest would be full of trees. So in the last two lines, when the poet is optimistic, actually what the poet is trying to do, the poet is trying to speak for the women. The poet is hopeful that today their rights and freedoms are curtailed, but she is hopeful that soon the women, because of their struggle, they continue with the struggle and definitely they would get all their freedoms and rights. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here is the explanation again. The poet observes that the trees, I think better you read, Anmol. Can you read?
Yes, ma'am. The poet observes that the trees inside the house are moving out into the forest that is empty since long. The real forests are being destroyed by the man, and he is trying to create false forests at home by keeping plants into pots and pans.
Yes, here it has been said that the man is trying to create false forests. What are these false forests?
Ma'am, fake forest,
Yes,
fake forest.
fake forests. How they are fake? Because they have been created at home. Forests cannot be created at home, right? The people put a few plants in pots and pans, and they think that they are creating a mini forest at home. No, that cannot be so. So the people, the humans, they just satisfy themselves with this very thought, but actually they are not conserving forest by keeping the plants in pots and pots and pans at home, right? Yes. Carry on.
The poet here refers to the man indirectly
To
that
the
the women
women.
are ready to move out to prove their identity. The forests have become treeless, no birds can be seen sitting there, insects are visible as they have nothing to hide, and sunlight could never disappear under the shades of trees.
The sunlight could never disappear because there are no trees. There are no trees to give the shade. So what it is, the sun is the sun rays are spreading everywhere. They cannot be obstructed by the shadow of the trees because the trees are not there. Yes.
The forest that has remained empty would be full next morning. The poet is optimistic about saving environment.
Is that clear? Now here the poetic devices, there are two poetic devices. One is imagery. Imagery, you know, right? Imagery is the trees inside are moving out into the forest. In fact, I would say no sun bury its feet in shadow. This is also an imagery, right? Then there is personification. No sun bury its feet in shadow. Sun is being personified, as the poet says, no sun bury its feet. Sun does not have feet, but sun has been described as a person, right? Shall we
Yes,
go to the next? Shall we go to the next?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, now this is the second stanza. All nights the roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves strain towards the glass, small twigs stiff with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof like newly discharged patients, half dazed, moving to the clinic doors. Now, hear what the poet says when the poet is observing. The poet is observing the plants kept in pots and pans in the house. The poet says that the whole night the roots work to disengage themselves from the crack. To disengage meaning to remove, to escape, to free themselves. The whole night, the roots have been struggling. The roots have been working hard to free themselves. So how they could free themselves from the interior of the house? Through the cracks. Through the cracks of the pots and pans. Those cracks are there. The cracks would be widened, and that would allow the space to the plants to move out. Just as, for example, Anmol, you can see this picture. Can you see the picture of the pot?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? How you see that through the crack, these roots have come out. They are spreading because they don't get the space to grow. So they are circling. But how long? How much? Ultimately, they put so much pressure to free themselves. They strain themselves so much that the pot is broken. The pot is cracked. The wall is cracked. And they escape through the wall. They escape through those cracks. Is that clear? So what does it mean? It means that one cannot be deprived of one's freedom. A woman cannot be deprived of her freedom and rights. She has an existence and she has to be given her rights and freedoms. Otherwise, she would leave no stone unturned to get her freedoms and rights. All right? To disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. Veranda is just like lobby. Okay, so a veranda floor meaning that the pots which are lying in the veranda floor. The leaves strain towards the glass. The leaves strain towards the glass. Now here, see the middle picture. We have the glass windows, right? Near the windows, we put these plants. Now these plants, their leaves, they keep on stretching towards the glass. Why are they stretching? Look at the position of these leaves. They are turning towards the glass of the window. Why do you think they are turning towards the glass of the window?
Ma'am, to escape.
To escape. To escape. They are hopeful. They are hopeful that they would get the space to move, to stretch out, right? They are hopeful that they would be able to break the glass and then extend its leaves and slowly reach out to the forest. Small twigs, stiff with exertion, small twigs, small branches of the trees, they become stiff, they become hard. Why? Because they put a lot of strain, a lot of pressure to escape themselves. And long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof. Long cramped boughs, long, large branches of the trees, what they do, they shuffle under the roof, meaning they get bent. They bend. Look at this picture. This is called Ari palm, right? This Ari palm, it is growing up. It is growing up. But when it will not get the space to go through the ceiling of the house or the roof of the house, then its leaves would bend, right? They would bend under the roof. Either they would try to cross through the roof or they would bend under the roof, right? Like newly discharged patient. Now these leaves have been compared with the patient who has just been discharged from the hospital. Now you must be finding it very strange, but why? You see that a patient is very desperate to get discharged. He is very happy and he tries to move out as fast as possible, to move out of the environment of the hospital. Similarly, trees are also desperate to escape the interiors of the house. On the other hand, the women are also desperate for a change. They are also desperate. They are also eager to get their freedoms and rights. So just as a newly discharged patient would be desperate to hear that he has been discharged, and he would be half dazed, half confused, and move towards the clinic door so that he has not to turn back. Similarly, the leaves are also desperate to escape. So are the women desperate to get their freedoms and rights. Is that clear? Right? Okay. So now you see that all these plants, we put them in very expensive pots and pans, right? But we deprive them of their natural habitat. And the same plants, you know, that if you just keep them out, they are very happy, they grow very healthy. And the same plants, if you, instead of pots and pans, if you grow them in the ground, again they grow very healthy. आपने देखा होगा ना कि जो पार्क्स में जो प्लांट्स उगाए जाते हैं और जो घरों की बालकनीज में उगाए जाते हैं, there is always the difference. Those growing on the ground are always healthier than those which are growing in the pots and pans. Right? Yes, please read this.
The poet says that the roots of the potted plants have worked hard to escape themselves and thus have caused cracks in the veranda floor. The crack is the result of their struggle or an effort. The leaves have made a tireless effort to reach the glass so that it breaks and they can escape. The small branches have become hard due to their continuous effort. The large branches have bent under the roof where they cannot grow much. The poet has compared the leaves with the newly discharged patient. A patient who is discharged from the hospital is desperate to move out of the hospital. Similarly, the leaves are also desperate to move out. The wants to convey through these lines that the women are also desperate for a change and are eager to move out and get freedom.
Yes, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now here the poetic devices are personification, right? Roots have been personified. How? All nights the roots work, right? Then roots work to disengage. Roots cannot disengage, but here it has been used as a person. Then the leaves strain towards the glass. Now leaves cannot move the leaves cannot strain, cannot put pressure. But the poet has described the leaves as a person straining himself. Then small twigs stiff with exertion. Small branches, they make themselves hard with exertion, meaning they do exertion, right? Then there is simile used, that is like a newly discharged patient. Is that clear? Right? If you have any doubt, you can ask me.
No, ma'am.
Sure?
Yes, ma'am.